So over the last year, we've compared the Pilot to several of its chief rivals, and it's managed to take them all down, even the luxurious Acura MDX. And in this case, it might be the toughest one yet, the all-new 2020 Kia Telluride. This is Kia's first car designed from the ground up for the North American market, and it is packing a lot of features into its 3 rows of space. But is it enough to take down the refreshed Pilot? Let's find out. So like always, we'll start off with the pricing of these two. For the Telluride, there's been a lot of confusion about what exactly it competes with. But rest assured that it is sized and priced right in line with all the other non-luxury 3-row crossovers. That being said, it starts out a little over $31,000, and we have the top trim here, the SX all-wheel drive, which goes for $43,490. From there we have the $2,000 Prestige package, which includes a slew of features, floor mats, wheel locks, and the 1045 destination charge. All told, that brings the price to a very competitive $46,795. While that sounds like a lot of dough, I say very competitive because on the Pilot it takes nearly $50,000 to get that top trim Elite. What matches up closer on price to the Telluride is the Touring trim, which is what we'll use for this comparison. It starts at $44,720, and in typical Honda fashion, there are no additional options besides for the $995 destination charge. That puts the total price at $45,715, or just about $1,000 cheaper than the fully loaded Kia. And to make up for that small difference, we'll start the Pilot off with 1 point. Starting out with the powertrains, these two crossovers are pretty close to each other. Both have naturally aspirated V6 engines, 3.5 liters on the Honda and 3.8 liters on the Kia. The Telluride ends up with more horsepower at 291 versus 280, and both have the same amount of torque. And then for the transmissions, the Honda technically has more ratios, but it's not a meaningful difference. Both also have torque vectoring all-wheel drive systems, as I already mentioned. Now moving into how these two actually drive, we were impressed by both of them. First and foremost, both are tuned for comfort and they ride excellently. But despite that, neither feels like a big lumbering boat or anything like that. Power delivery is very good in both since they are naturally aspirated. And the transmissions are very smooth, even the Pilot's, which has taken some flack in the past for being a bit lethargic. Of course, neither of these are sports cars, but the Telluride steering has a more natural and even weight to it. But all in all, both crossovers are pretty similar, and they excel at making the driving experience pleasant. Finally, finishing this part up, they have nearly the same combined fuel economy ratings, at 22 versus 21 combined. But anyways, that's it for the powertrain info. So now let's move on to the exterior designs and features. So while these two are pretty similar to each other under the hood, you certainly can't say the same thing about the designs. The Honda definitely has the more traditional and conservative look up front, but this updated 2019 grille did make things look more aggressive. The Telluride, however, has a very different look than the competition, one that borrows characteristics from much more expensive vehicles, like Range Rover. It has a large boxy grille with Telluride branding across the hood, and then off to the side you have a stacked LED headlight cluster with the really unique yellowish daytime running lights. The Pilot's headlights are also fully LED, and down at the bottom, both models will have LED fog lights. But since they are pretty much the same, I won't award any points here. Around at the side and back though, the Telluride does have some objective advantages, besides for the subjective opinion that it looks substantially more stylish to my eyes. The Kia has very upscale looking full LED taillights compared to the partial units on the Honda. And then it also has exposed exhaust outlets instead of hidden ones on the Pilot. So overall, if you are concerned with provocative styling in this class, the Telluride is pretty much the only name in the game. Now checking out all the individual features, they have nearly identical turning circles and ground clearances of close to 8 inches. The wheels, however, are not very similar, besides for both being 20 inches. The Honda goes with a contrast design, while Kia goes with a fully blacked out look on the SX trim. Heading to the mirrors, both models come with heating and blind spot monitoring, but only the Telluride has auto dimming and power folding. Now, in addition to the blind spot monitoring, both Honda and Kia give you their entire suites of safety systems as standard equipment. That means they have automatic forward emergency braking, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, and auto high beam headlights. And like I said, these features are standard on all trims, not just these loaded models. One pretty significant difference between these two are their warranties. The Pilot comes with the industry standard 3-year basic and 5-year powertrain warranties, but Kia almost doubles that to 5-year basic and 10-year powertrain. However, neither of them have complimentary maintenance. The last two things I mentioned on the outside are the 5,000-pound tow ratings on both, and then the fuel tank capacities of 19.5 gallons on the Pilot and 18.8 gallons on the Kia. Now, since the Pilot already has better fuel economy, it does of course have the greater fuel range, at 429 miles versus 395 miles. But as you can see, even though they look very different on the outsides, they have similar features. But now let's go ahead and see if the same thing happens for the interiors. Now moving into the interiors, the first thing we have are the key fobs for the standard smart entry systems. Besides for design, the main difference here is that Honda has integrated remote start, whereas on the Kia you have to do it via the Uvo app. Another small point to mention is that the Pilot has an unlock sensor behind the handle instead of having to press the button. So first, opening up the doors, just like on the outside, the interiors could not look any more different. The Honda once again has the more traditional design, finished here in beige leather. And then Kia has gone with a more upscale look, which as equipped gives you luxury grade Napa leather. Now as far as the actual seat functionalities, both are 10-way power adjusting. However, the Telluride has extra power thigh extension. Both of them also have 2-person memory, but only the Kia has ventilation at this price point. So visually, the Telluride's cabin has the richest design in the class, and that is also backed up by class-leading materials. The top part of the dash is made of a soft touch plastic with stitching, and then through the middle there is a really realistic faux wood trim. Finally, the 2 grab handles are also covered in soft leather, and all the buttons that look like aluminum are aluminum. By comparison, the Pilot's materials are what I consider normal for the class, but they are much less luxurious than the Kia's. So overall, the Telluride will take the materials point. Press the buttons to start both. When you do, both large touchscreens will fire up, 8 inches on the Honda and over 10 inches on the Kia. Now checking out the gauges, they look very different, but ultimately they both have 7-inch multifunction displays with the same capabilities. However, the Telluride does have a head-up display, which the Pilot can never get. Moving on back to the steering wheels, the Telluride also has the advantage here, since its wheel is heated and it uses real aluminum trim. They are both manually tilt and telescoping. Next up, we have the very important aspect of storage, where both models absolutely strive. Honda went with separated armrests to allow for a blank space to set things. And then underneath, there is an absolutely massive bin. Additionally, there is some more storage in the front. Kia also gives you large bins in the center and front, but overall they're not quite as large as in the Honda. However, Kia does fight back by giving you a wireless phone charger that the Pilot is missing. Now coming to the shifters, Honda uses an electronic one and Kia has a traditional one. Regardless of personal preference on this part, both have manual modes and paddle shifters on the wheel. However, when you go into reverse, the Kia gives you a nice 360-degree camera that takes up the whole display, which is something the Honda doesn't offer. The next stop are the climate controls, where both models give you a 3-zone automatic setup. They are also very ergonomically friendly, since all the buttons are large, well labeled, and all in one cluster. Now let's hear the audio sample. Even though they have the same speaker count, the Kia branded system has the richer sound. And now that brings us to the infotainment systems. Starting with the Honda, it now has the latest Honda Link system with the better graphics, performance, and touch response. This one also has built-in navigation, in addition to both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. The Kia also has the latest version of UVO, and on this high-end Telluride, we have the large display with split-screen functionality. This system has both integrated navigation, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay. I've already awarded the Kia a point for having the larger display, but other than that, the software experiences are both very pleasant. Finally, the last thing to mention up front is the regular moonroof on the Pilot compared to the dual-panel setup on the Kia. But anyways, now let's move on to the rear areas, which are historically the Pilot's most dominant area. Alrighty, so checking out the back seats, surprisingly the Telluride has more legroom at 42.4 inches versus 40.2 in the Pilot. They do, however, have identical headroom measures. Additionally, these high-end models come with 7-passenger captain's chairs, which on the Pilot are heated, and on the Telluride are heated and ventilated. That's a feature not available on many cars, costing twice what the Telluride does. Now as far as other amenities, both have manual sunshades, rear climate controls, as well as 2 charging USB ports and a household outlet. Where the Pilot has a leg up is in the rear seat entertainment. For 2019, it has a larger 10.2-inch display, and it gets all the advanced features from the Odyssey, like direct screen casting from a smartphone. Now moving on to the third row of seats, both crossovers have a very convenient one-touch folding and sliding mechanism to give you a nice pathway. Once in the third row, the Pilot is slightly more spacious overall, though not more than a 5% difference. Both also have rear air vents, but only the Kia gives you charging USB ports. Moving around to the rear, both have smart opening tailgates. And once they open up, you'll find some of the best cargo capacities in the class. Behind the third row, the Kia actually has the advantage at 21 cubic feet versus 16. But as the rows of seats fold, they become essentially identical. So if you're looking for spacious options, either of these two will more than suffice. Well guys, that concludes this comparison between a newcomer and an established leader. As you can see, both are really well-rounded offerings. But at this point, the Kia's combination of size, features, and luxury make it the new value king in the class. But as always, we do recommend checking them out in person. Thanks for joining us on this Car Confections face-off comparison, and be sure to subscribe for more comparisons and our signature full review videos. See you next time, and take care.